You're watching the G20 Show, produced by Phil from Arcade Regiment and, of course, your host, G20.
So, the one kind of thing that bugs me about crosswalks is not having the ability to cross the walk at an intersection. Intersection. There you go.
We took a whole 4 seconds before we couldn't speak English on a podcast. That's fantastic.
This is off to a great start. So let me
start.
talk about this little story here. So I was just going down to mail something out, and I was just trying to cross the crosswalk, and I hate when cars pull up like in the middle of it. And my absolute favorite thing that I get joy out of when this happens is not only do I walk in front of the car, but I walk in front of the car, slowly tilt my head, do not break eye contact until I am directly out of their line of sight, and then I slowly tilt my head back. I am asserting dominance because I hate that. I am letting you know you messed up. I am acknowledging that you messed up, and you will show me some respect next time.
Yeah, I don't like when cars do that. It's like when you're trying to start a podcast with your buddy and you just got this brand new fancy ass camera, and then you get on the Zoom and your cam link doesn't work on Zoom.
I hate when that happens.
Right? Not that it happens to you a lot, but it's just not fun when it happens.
It is absolutely not fun, but I like that idea you said initially, starting a brand new podcast. That's a great idea.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you explain to these lovely people who are watching what this is going to be about?
Well, it's going to be about hockey, shockingly, because that's what I specialize in. I specialize in two things, talking and hockey. Other than that, I am pretty much useless. I guess I'm okay at music, and that's about it. Other than that, I don't do much. So I figured, it's just shower thoughts. I figured since people want story time videos, since people want Q&A videos and all that stuff, and constantly are asking me my opinions on this and that around the NHL, I figured why not just do a podcast? Because that's also something that's been requested of me. So I got one of the best producers I could find, probably the best producer I could find.
Thank you.
There,
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And he is the one that hooked me up with all this stuff, the graphics, all of the stuff I pretty much directed, if you would, the intro, and I did a little bit of helping on some of the audio files, but it was Phil that did most of the final touches to make sure that it sounded as crisp as it could sound. So thank you for that. That I do appreciate it.
Of course, buddy. Anytime. Thanks for just having me on here to, pass this lovely quarantine that we've been dealing with for month 56 at this point, I think is what's going on.
Yeah, it's about that amount of time, yeah. But Phil doesn't know this yet. This is about to be breaking news to Phil, as it is to you. But if he is okay with it, once we get comfortable with our whole format, and once we know that we can do it time in and time out, and we're just comfortable with it, Phil is on Twitch, and he will have some live editions of this on his Twitch channel if he is down with it.
I am more than cool with that. That actually sounds like a great idea. That would just make my life a lot easier too.
Yes, sir.
That I had to click a button. Boom.
now they're gonna come over to my channel afterwards, but if you want to hear it first and you want to participate in the show live, once we do start doing live shows, they're gonna be on Phil's channel. So
I like that.
There you go.
I like that.
So make sure that you go down to the description, read all the doobly doops. I'm gonna have some links and stuff down there, and you can follow Phil on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. There's a Discord link in there if I don't forget to put it in there. And, of course, Phil's Twitch, which he actually uses, unlike me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I barely use YouTube anymore, and you're on the YouTube. You don't use Twitch. I'm all about that Twitch. So there we go. I feel like we cover a vast array of social media spectrums. I can't believe I got that out. I am very impressed.
That was good. That was good. Considering the English language is undefeated against you, I feel like that's pretty good.
Which is very
you did
ironic.
a good job on that one.
It's very ironic considering my last name is English, so it's
You would expect to be somewhat decent at it, but
No.
It is what it is.
I'm decent at giving takes, though, and giving some hot takes, like the hottest action that's been going on right now. And in case you've been living under a rock, it's the NHL playoffs. There have been some
Yes.
fantastic, and I mean fantastic series right now. So we're going to jump into a couple of them. And I want to start with the one that has me the most interested, and that is the Boston Bruins and Washington Capitals.
Yes,
Mm.
that's awesome because originally, okay, we had been planning to do the podcast for like I'd say like 2 months now, 2 3 months. Like we had previous talks, but we really started designing some graphics and stuff about 2 3 months ago, and basically it got to the point where I got a little bit busy, and then I said, you know what, we're just gonna wait till next season. We're gonna start it till next season. And then the playoffs started, and I realized there was a nice little gap between the start of the playoffs and the start of the North Division playoffs. I was like, man, this would be a nice time to start a podcast if we could figure out the final touches. And then lo and behold, the freaking playoffs that the rounds that have started have been just so exciting. They got me hyped. So that's why I wanted to really get the podcasting gear. So thank the Bruins and Capitals for really reigniting pretty much the passion that we're going through here, because that is dope, man. I was watching that game because obviously it was one of the first, if not the first playoff game. I'm not sure if there was a game before that, but whatever. And man, like 2 seconds in, Ovechkin just trucking people, and I said, it's playoff time, baby. That just felt great.
That was the moment for me as well, man. Like I just tuned in on my TV, and I don't even use my TV anymore. I basically just sit on like my monitors on my computer, but I'm like, you know what? Let me get comfy. Let me just sit back in my bed, get a nice drink. I pop on the TV, like I miss like the opening anthems and stuff like that. And all I see is Ovechkin just boom, and I'm like,
Destroy somebody.
I'm like, I think it was poor David Krejci, and I'm like, oh, playoffs, here we are.
Yes,
and I remember just
sir.
messaging you guys, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a barn burner of a series. And it has been 2 games and 2 overtimes. Like, that's already insane. And what I kind of want to talk about, too, just in, like, this series particular, and it does carry over to the other one we've been watching, but you can just definitely notice the physicality between regular season and playoffs. It's like someone just took the knob and just went thick, and that first like 3 minutes with all the hits and everything, I'm like, God, I've missed this.
Yeah. Well, that's just the players going from playing 1 of 56 to 1 of potentially 4. Right? Like there's no friggin' saving anything in the playoffs. You gotta send it. That's what you gotta do, or else you're gonna be out. Like if you lose 4 games, you're done. And you played the entire season already, so you might as well not be done, right? You might as well go all the way. So that's why it's intense. I always love playoff games, man. And I feel like, the Leafs are my second favorite team, and of course that's that physicality is something that's stopped them before. So it's nice to see that, first of all, they fixed some things as far as the roster goes. Like they got players that can actually play like that now. But it's nice to see league wide just the entire momentum and the entire phicality and intensity just going up the whole time. I really like it, because that's the best type of hockey to me. Like I like there's like 3 seasons to me in hockey.
Okay.
There's the early regular season, which is basically everyone comes out and plays at 100 miles an hour, and it's offense because systems aren't down. There's new players, and guys are just fresh as pro athletes can be, because they're always hurt, but they're fresh. So there's that little part of the season, and then there's the second part of the season, which is like the grindy part of the regular season, where things are starting to get set and people are comfortable in their strategies and they're starting to really clamp down on what makes them successful. And then there's this third part of the season, which is like the final stretch of the season, and then the playoffs, because then it gets intense and then it wraps up. That's when it gets really exciting.
The playoffs, to me, I feel, are like the perfect time to sell somebody on the sport who may have like not watched in the past, or may have watched it in passing. Like if you're at like a bar, remember where you could do that, go to bars? Or if you're like at like a friend's place and like, oh, the game is on, like you'll just casually sit on the couch and watch it. If you want to sell somebody on the game of hockey, you put on a playoff game. And what's really kind of been neat is seeing fans back in the stands for the most part.
Mhm.
Especially like in places like Washington, Carolina, and just seeing them go nuts and seeing big hits. Because when a big hit gets delivered in like an empty arena, like, oh, it looked great on TV, and you're sitting on your couch like, oh, but just you can tell that like when a player delivers that hit and the crowd just like reacts, like that
Yeah.
gets them going, man. And that's just been a big part, I think, that was missing last year from the bubble. Because man, I don't know about you, but just seeing like these playoffs and then like seeing the play-in rounds and like the qualifiers last year and just seeing the hockey, like the hockey felt great to watch last year. But I don't know, just so far it just, this year feels just more entertaining. And maybe it's kind of placebo of seeing fans back in the stands, but especially in the Tampa and Florida series, like that first game, just right off the hop. You want to talk about just two teams that like kind of for some reason I didn't ever think they would kind of like spark this like crazy rivalry. But I mean, if you look at it, it makes sense geographically. I mean, they're both based out of Florida, but Florida this year has been like an unexpected wagon. Like they've just been really, really talented, and they're doing this without Aaron Ekblad. And to see them kind of pick up that like physical pace. I mean, what was it like? Just all the penalties being called to that game as well. Like we're just like, you know what? Just keep parading to the box. And it was just so cool to see this like kind of rivalry, I guess, get reignited or just restarted. It's just been super fun to see, especially those two teams. It's been just an absolute gong show, and I'm loving every second of it.
You know what's funny about Florida is obviously you can't pay attention to all 31 teams as much as your favorite teams, right? You have a select one or two teams that you really cheer for, and then you have like your kind of bubble teams, your friends' favorite teams, and just teams that you're somewhat familiar with, so you kind of follow those teams. And then there's like the teams that are good and then have like a story, like maybe Ovechkin's team or Crosby's team, you know those. And then there's like the rest, right? And Florida's pretty much always in the rest bubble. And pretty much the entire season, people are like, "Yeah, Florida's good." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." They have Barkov. Barkov's lit, and Bobrovsky when he can play the game at the highest level and he's on the case. Okay, of course the Panthers are doing fine, like whatever. And then it gets deeper and deeper into the season. You realize there's like, oh snap, Panthers are actually like top two, top three. Like this is okay. They might be a real team. And then the last couple games of the regular season happened between them and Tampa, and they just absolutely like almost killed each other in a regular season game. And after that, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good playoff series. And then, of course, it was.
It's been so fun to watch too. And I remember selfishly you were just like, oh, like who do you want to see win? And I'm like, Florida. You're like, why? I'm like, Tampa's a good team, I don't want to play them. And that's what I love about these two series. It's like Washington, Boston, Tampa, and Florida. I'm like, man, I'm like, two out of those four teams are going home. I'm just
They're
like,
done. Yeah. First
selfishly, I'm
round.
just like, oh, here we go. This is so good. And like, I'm total like Leaf fan blinders on, man. I'm just thinking, I'm like, if Toronto can just get out of this round, dude, I'm like, oh, whoever they get like later on, dude, I'm like, these are two teams that won't be there. I really want the Boston and Toronto final, like just so bad.
That would be cool.
It just because like I like to think in storylines and fantasy stories, and like this might just be a fantasy story pipe dream, but just how good would it be if like like the win that they get, like the final time they like the time they finally overcome them, is in the Cup final.
It's like
Twitter would
Washington
be
finally getting out
insufferable.
of the second round,
Oh,
beating Pittsburgh. It had
getting
to be
Kuznetsov.
Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You have to slay your dragons before you get onto other things, man. Think of Vancouver, Chicago. Washington, Pittsburgh's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want that this year, man. Like that's just what I want for Toronto, just so bad.
I just want them to win a freaking playoff round. To be honest, but it's part of that. Like if they seem to have as good a shot as any this year, because they should get out of the North. If you're looking at the teams objectively, without any bias, I feel like certain teams in some aspects can sort of challenge Toronto for certain things. Like obviously Edmonton has the best player. Winnipeg has probably the better depth, but Toronto overall should definitely come out of the North on paper. So
Exactly.
if that happens, and they're only one playoff round away from a Stanley Cup final. And at that point, I mean, you're 2 months into a playoff stretch, and everybody's hurt, and who knows, right? Like it's always a toss up. It's like, remember when LA was, I don't remember if it was the year that they finished eighth or if it was the year. No, it was the year that they just barely made the playoffs, and then they steamrolled their way through the Western Conference. Like
Out
they
of nowhere. Out of nowhere.
they just crushed it, and then they got to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they're like, oh, so they're playing New Jersey. And something told me that was one of the best bets I made. Something told me, I'm like, man, Jersey's actually going to give them a fight. So I said LA's going to win, and everybody was like, nah, they're sweeping them. It's going to be 4-0. LA's going to just steamroll through the finals as well, and it's going to be GG's. I bet like $10, which I mean at the time I was happy to win $10 if I won it. So I bet $10 that it was going to be LA, but in 6 games and not 4. And it turned out to be exactly that. So I was really happy about that. That was cool.
You immediately sent like a Venmo notice to Steve Bernier for taking that just egregious 5-minute major that cost his team the cup because, oh my Lord. Who was the man that died? Was it Dustin Penner? That poor dude just got catawampus. I remember just sitting there, and I'm just like, that could be a 5. I'm like, that could be a 5. And then all of a sudden, what was it, like 2 or 3 just hurt. And I'm like, Steve Bernier right now is probably just walking out of the arena. He's not even getting changed. He's putting his skate guards on because I would not want to see my teammates after that one, dude, at all.
I forgot it was Steve Bernier. Like, I remember the whole 5-minute major thing. I forgot it was Steve Bernier. What even happened to that guy after? Like, did he play in the NHL after that?
Probably. Like, I feel like some team was just like, oh, your actions are in the past. He probably went to the minors somewhere. We got to get Steve Bernier on here and be like, hey, buddy, what happened?
That'd be kind of funny.
What was going through your mind? But you're absolutely right, man. If you can, like you were saying, it's like if Toronto's got like best chances, just once they get out of that round, they get out of the North, you're 2 rounds in, you're just a conference final, the cup like appearance away, dude, from winning it all and finally silencing 1967, dude, after all of these years. And they got a tough opponent in the first round, man, and that is the Montreal Canadiens. How do you feel Montreal stacks up against Toronto? Because they always kind of give them a fight. They always feel like that pesky just team that like won't let anything go. Like they're always on them. They're always hitting. And even what was it? Josh Anderson comments. He's just like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like just there's that like chomping at the bit to play Toronto, and it kind of feels like it's the same on both sides, like in that regard. And so, how do you feel a team like Montreal stacks up against Toronto?
I feel like they have a legitimate, I'm not saying they're the favorite, but I think they have a legitimate chance to beat them. This series is not 4 or 5 games. I can almost guarantee you that. Unless somebody really important gets hurt, it's not 4 or 5 games. It's at least 6, maybe 7. That's how close. And I think I don't know. Part of me is like a little scared that Montreal might come out and freaking upset them. Like they upset the freaking Penguins, but I mean, you got to look at it on paper and be like, there's no way Toronto loses this, right? But the problem with that is if it's so obvious that they should win on paper, if that gets into the Leafs players' heads, who are young players, that could really come back to bite them, and it could lose them 2 games right there. So I don't know. I don't like it.
So what you said right there, it's like if that gets in their heads and they could lose 2 games right there. So the reason now why I don't think that's going to happen this year, where I don't think they're going to get overconfident, is because of the assets and players they got this year, like Wayne Simmons, like Jason Spezza, like Joe Thornton. You know, they're going to be that calming presence, like, listen, we got a job to do. You know, if they get up 2-0 or whatever, if they get up like 1-0, it's like, okay, that's great. We got 1. We got to get 3 more. We got to get to 4 in this round. And then you know what? We got to get to 4 in the next round, and then 4 in the round after that. It's not going to be easy. So I feel like those kind of veterans are going to keep them in check because they've been in these situations before, like long runs in the playoffs. I mean, Simmons with Philadelphia, Thornton with the Sharks, Spezza in 2007 with that Ottawa Senators team. Like they've been there before. They know what it takes. They know like what you have to do to get into those later rounds. And Spezza was there last year, so I'm sure Jason Spezza had to fight last year. If he has to do that again, I'm yeeting my phone through my TV.
He's
He
not
should
going.
not
Wayne
have
Simmons
to do that
is
again.
not letting that happen.
Exactly, because, the veteran presence. And I feel like this year, because maybe against Columbus, like last year in the play-ins, Toronto had that same kind of mindset. They should have won on paper, but you know what happened? Columbus beat them. And it was a wild series, but they got in their own heads. And this year, I don't think that will be the case. I do agree with you on one thing, though. I 100% believe this is not going to be a sweep or 5. It's going to be at least a 6-game series because
Oh yeah.
Montreal is just, you cannot count them out. But what confuses me about Montreal is Coach Dominic Ducharme not playing Kotkaniemi, Caulfield, and Romanov. I don't get that.
I smiled when I saw that. And I was like, okay, cool. That's like if Tippett was like, okay, so we're not gonna play Nurse or Nugent Hopkins, and we're starting Stuart Skinner. I'd be like, okay, why? I don't understand. Please help us, Habs fans, because from what I've seen, most of y'all don't like this. But if there's Habs fan watching this that somehow think this is a good idea, please explain to me why. Because I don't get it. Like I maybe if you're going with a heavier lineup, sure, but if you're struggling to get goals, like why would you scratch all of those guys? Maybe one to send a message or to get a heavier lineup, but why all of those guys? And friggin' Edmonton's gonna be playing Cassian, so that's a similar vibe that they got going on there, but they're not friggin' sitting guys like Kotkaniemi. Like, I think Kotkaniemi's a really, really good player.
I agree.
And Caulfield, like, come on. Caulfield's got ice in his veins, bro. How many players score their first 2 NHL goals in overtime? I don't know.
Not many.
I don't know. I don't even think Matt Sundin did that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Then again, there were ties back in those days. Like,
yeah,
how
true.
Archaic.
That's true. But Sundin had a ridiculous record, though, for like most overtime goals scored, something like that. Not most overtime goals scored, but like the largest amount of his career goals being in overtime. It's like a percentage type of record. I know he has some sort of record where he's up there on a leaderboard of some sort. Sundin had a lot of OT goals, is what I'm saying.
He did have a lot of them. And, Cole Caulfield having that start that he did, you were right with the ice in his veins. Like you said, when you're in overtime, the game's on your stick, and he made the most of it twice. And the thing is with him, he's going to be a good goal scorer. He's going to be a great goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
I chirp the guy all the time, Toronto-Montreal banter, but I got to give credit where credit's due, man. He is going to be a player in this league for a long, long time. And the only, and this is just spitballing, the only potential rationale that I can give is I haven't noticed him too much 5-on-5. And that's what the playoffs are going to be about. They're going to be physical. They're going to be all 5-on-5 based, defensive responsibilities, especially when it's in the playoffs, because every game matters, every shift matters. And I haven't really noticed him too much 5-on-5 besides getting shellackled by the official.
Yeah, the ref. Yeah.
But that's the thing, man. That's the comparison with him, is a lot of people are saying like the size, but listen, man, it's not the size of the fight in the dog, it's the size of the fight in the, or whatever. You get that analogy. I can't even say it. Yeah. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Boom. Nailed it.
Boom.
Yeah.
High five.
There you go. Boom. Excellent.
There you go.
But that's what I'm saying, man. Like, this guy's going to be a player. He's been in, big collegiate games. So I'm questioning this decision by Ducharme, man. Maybe you can make it make sense. Like, it can't be the inexperience thing. Can it?
I guess for Caulfield isolated, you could chalk it up inexperience. Like, sure, he's got like what, less than 20 games. I don't even think he has 10 games.
No,
but I mean, if you're gonna just sit him on inexperience, fine. Romanov has a little bit more experience though, and he's a quality player. And Kotkaniemi's got a few seasons now, and that's not inexperience. That's just you willingly think that somebody else is better for your lineup, and I don't know if that's accurate.
I'm just scared for his development, man. Like that's the one thing that just kind of has me worried because I
Who,
feel like
Caulfield?
no, not Caulfield, Kakaniemi.
Mm.
His development is just something that I'm just kind of getting worried about because I feel like I've seen this song and dance before with Montreal and someone who's like a talented center, and he's now residing on the Toronto Maple Leafs in Alex Galchenyuk. Like
Oh.
someone who had decent upside was taken. I think were they both taken third overall or something along those lines, like within the first like 3 to 4 or 5 picks.
Oh yeah, Kakaniemi was taken early, and everyone was like, "Excuse me, you picked Kakaniemi there?" Yeah. I remember that they picked him early. I don't know if he was third, but he was up there. He was definitely top 10.
Exactly, right? So both players picked early, both had like wicked potential, especially with Galchenyuk early on, 30 goals scored in his first like couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of pinballed around. Like, I don't know what the deal was with him and Michel Therrien. Was there something kind of there? But I feel like we're seeing this kind of with Kotkaniemi again. He was down with Laval for, I think it was like a lot of last season as well. Like, he was sent down. And he's a good player as well. It's very confusing to me that Montreal is just having this approach where they're not playing their young guys because their young guys are what are going to be the difference maker. I feel in this series, like Caulfield if he's in, Nick Suzuki's a monster. By the
He's
way,
so good.
he is just disgusting. But
Mhm.
I feel like players like Romanov, players like Kotkaniemi, Caulfield, Suzuki are going to be the ones to make a difference in this series. So it's puzzling to see 3 out of those 4 sit for game 1.
It is, but the one thing I'll say though with the Kakaniemi's development, I don't really think you can sort of lump him and Galchenyuk in the same boat because Kotkaniemi has shown at times that he can actually develop to a good two-way player where I don't think Galchenyuk ever did that. Like he was always a offensive type of player that did offense and did it really well, but defensively, not not as well.
Yeah.
He's like William Nylander if he didn't work out and played center. You know, I feel like that's the parallel. As if KK is kind of like they were talking about this guy like he was going to be like a two-way monster at some point. Like I don't think the whole development aspect is the same, but I'm still puzzled by why they're sitting. That's what I'm getting at.
That is a big question with me, especially because they are productive players, like especially Caulfield with goals. But one of the
The big ones.
yeah, the big goals. Some would say game-winning goals, even.
Yeah, it sure would.
But what's really kind of impressed me about Toronto is now adding, I would like to say, kind of depth to their lines. Everyone knows with Toronto, like their identity, they can score. They
Mhm.
can score beaucoup de goals. Okay, they can score a lot of goals. Their biggest problem that's plagued them for years has been keeping the puck out of their net. Whether you think that's been a goaltending issue, a defense issue, or a mix of both of them, Toronto's biggest issue has been keeping pucks out of the net. And I feel defensively this year, they've gotten a lot better. TJ Brody has been much better than advertised. I feel
Oh
like
my
he's
God.
been stellar defensively, or at least extremely serviceable on the back end when you think about defense and actual defense being played by the Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman.
So we have a common friend, Audie James, who's a Flames fan and who knows what he's talking about. Like I trust when he tells me someone is not that good, I trust that he's not going to be a superstar, right? Like I kind of trust what he's saying. And so when he was like, man, TJ Brody, not good defensively. And then I paid attention to it and I'm like, oh boy, not good defensively because he was on Calgary. He wasn't really doing well in Calgary. And then he comes to Toronto and he just becomes this super solid defensively kind of defense. Like, I don't understand what happened there. My best guess is in Calgary, he was paired up with Gio, and Gio was a really solid defensive rock. Like, I think we all know what Gio brings.
Mhm.
And so TJ Brody became the offensive one because you're always going to need someone that has the responsibility to move the puck a little bit more than the other, while the other one usually stays back. There's usually always that kind of dynamic, at least from what I've experienced playing and watching. And then he comes to Toronto and he's playing with freaking Leroy Jenkins incarnate and Morgan Riley. So I guess TJ was like, oh, okay. So Morgan had 70 points this one time. I don't think I can get 70 points. So I guess Morgan is the ratchet one, and I'm going to be the one that's a little bit more cautious. And so when he just focused on it, and he is L1R1 extraordinaire, I don't know, he just kind of became good, and you don't notice him, which is what you want out of your solid defensive guy, is to not notice him.
Yes.
And pretty much the entire season, I don't think I've noticed him once, which is crazy because the last defenseman that they got, Tyson Barrie, from a couple seasons ago, you notice him like the first game because he did some like foo-foo shit with the dangles. Like he dangled the shit out of one of the Sens players that was forechecking
Brady
him.
Kachuk. Because I was at that game. It was Brady Kachuk, and he spun.
Goodness.
And I was like, oh, he killed him.
He destroyed Brady Kachuk. And that's the type of stuff that gets you noticed. So TJ never does anything like that. I don't think I remember a single TJ Brody highlight from this season. Do you?
No, maybe like a bunch of 2-on-1s he stopped because L1R1 specialist,
Right,
but like
exactly.
that's it. Yeah.
When I think of TJ Brody and moments I've noticed him, it's him freaking sprawling out and just whipping his stick freaking back towards his head and stopping pucks. That's when I think about when I go TJ Brody highlights. So that's freaking good, man. When you have a defenseman that can do that, hell yeah, sign me up.
And it's been a breath of fresh air to see someone just defensively like reliant that you can count on to, make the smart plays, make the safe plays. And another like
up.
Exactly. And another kind of good pair that I feel has been kind of decently solid all year, and they're the pair that gets talked about as being the shutdown pair, has been Justin Hall and Jake Muzzin. And we kind of got a bit of that, I would say, towards the end of the season last year before the initial shutdown. Like they were kind of like containing teams and kind of being very solid. But what's been a surprise for me kind of this year has been Zach Bogosian.
Yeah.
He has been a surprise.
I think he's been surprisingly not awful. Like I thought he was going to be like a detriment back there. So I guess in that sense he's been surprising, but I don't think he's been that great.
Listen, my bar for competency is like Martin Marincin, okay? And if you are above that bar, my reactions accordingly are you are good. Because if we hit that Marincin buoy, we've gone too far.
I think when Bogosian put skates on, the little blade holders, the white chits, that let him step over the Martin Marincin bar. Just having that under his feet alone.
That was the you know what? You're instantly better. And I love Martin Marincin just for all the meme moments, dude. Like I love the guy. But just having someone on that third pair that's not him is kind of a blessing. And he being paired with Rasmus Sandin has me all kinds of excited.
Man.
All kinds of excited. Oh.
That's another one that I feel like he's a little bit overhyped to this point, Sandin. I don't think he's been that much of a standout. I know I'm in the minority on this one, but like a lot of people are seemingly like super impressed with Sandy. Like, oh, he's so great, and I think he's good. Like, I'm not hating on the guy. I had a thing on stream earlier where somebody asked me about Jesse Puljujarvi, and I just said like, yeah, I think he's decent. I don't think he's a star player, but if he keeps working at it, he can be, a good productive first liner. But right now, I think he's just like a decent guy, and they were like, stop hating, he's good. I'm like, I just said he was decent. Like I just said he was good.
I didn't say it was terrible. Like what?
No, exactly.
Why?
So I'm not hating on Sandin. I just think we gotta maybe pump it just a little bit, pump the brakes on it. He's been solid, but let's not over evaluate him and act like he's freaking the next Bobby Orr, because Habs fans did that with Nathan Beaulieu when he scored his first goal, and look how that turned out. So I want
That's
to caution a little bit. I think Sandin's better than Beaulieu. He's looked better, but I don't know. I don't think he's that incredible, and I know that's a little against the grain, I guess, but that's just what I see.
the reason I think that he's actually done just really well is because that kind of comparison where like I you don't notice him doing anything too crazy. What
Mhm.
I've really liked with Rasmus Sandin has been zone exits. He has, I feel, really good poise already in his career with the puck and making the decisions to get out of
That's
the
true.
zone and waiting.
He does
That's
have good
kind of the
poise.
big thing. People like some people have this thing with defensemen, like, oh, if they're not scoring goals, or basically, I hear like if they're not Eric Carlson, then they're just like, oh, I don't really care. But I'm like, dude, what Rasmus is doing with, and I'm not comparing the two, by the way, but just I like that he's got really good poise with the puck already. And he's young. He's going to make mistakes, as evidenced with that one just terrible giveaway that actually led to, I think, Caulfield's first 5-on-5 goal. And he's going to make bonehead decisions at times. But just from what I'm seeing with just the little things with the puck, how he keeps the zone, how he's willing to shoot on the power play. Morgan, I'm looking right at you when I'm saying this. When he shoots the puck on the power play, he's bringing an element to this defense that I don't think is kind of been there before, especially from like that left-handed kind of defenseman. Like with Jake
Mhm.
Muzzin, we knew he was kind of like physical. He was going to throw the body. He was kind of going to shut like pairs and like forwards down. But
Yeah.
with Riley, you knew from the start he's going to be all offense. He's going to be thinking like points. But with Sandin, he's kind of blossomed into this like nice potential two-way defenseman. And I'm just kind of like, oh, like he's solid offensively and he's showing the maturity of like being potentially really solid defensively. So I'm kind of liking just his play at both ends of the ice, which is why I feel like he's blossoming into someone who could potentially be at the very least a top 4, maybe a top 3 defenseman. Like as somebody can go with.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's like you're saying, he's good now. He's good now, but I feel like he could be something better just from these little flashes that you guys might not notice. If you're watching the Leafs Habs game, just watch what he does with the puck and watch his decision making. And you might kind of see my argument there.
The thing that I think video games have messed up with some part of the hockey community, and what just the perception of the game has also messed up people that don't even play with the video games, is they think there's only 3 types of defensemen. The common thing is you have your offensive guys, your defensive guys, and your two-way guys. And I think that's wrong. I think you have your offensive defensemen who will, like Letang and Riley, Carlson, guys like that, guys that are gonna be really good in the offensive zone, make plays, jump in a rush, all that stuff.
Like a fourth
I
forward kind of, right?
yeah, like the rover guys, like freaking Barry and those guys.
Okay.
So I think there's that guy. There's the two-way guy. We all know what that is, like Geo, good everywhere. There's the really defensive guy, obviously, someone like Muzzin. But something that people don't realize is a thing, I guess, that defensemen can specialize in, is being an offensive defenseman in your own zone. That means getting the puck to Nylander so that he can do his neutral zone thing. Making that first pass is a really, really big part of being a defenseman that a lot of people don't freaking understand. Because sure, you can stop the opposition, you can stop the cycle and all of that, but if it takes just an extra forechecker to come and grab the puck, like if the F3 always snatches your breakout pass, it doesn't matter how good you are defensively, it doesn't matter how good you are in the offensive zone, you're not gonna transition the play from defense to offense. So I think getting the puck out of the zone is a big thing people don't realize is an asset. So I don't know. I feel like moving the puck ahead is more valuable than people think. They go, defensive guys, offensive guys, and two-way guys, and I think that's just wrong. I don't think I don't think that's accurate. I think you can be a really good offensive defenseman without getting a bunch of points because it's obviously once it's in the forwards' hands, and they start passing around, well, there goes your point for breaking out, right? You would know that.
I would know a lot about that, actually. I was just going to say, I'm like, I know exactly what that feels like. As someone who always makes that first pass, or usually does, I wind up off of the score sheet many a time.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Phil's our defenseman when we're playing NHL Online, which, by the way, will be a thing we'll talk about when, like, the trailers come out and stuff. We're going to talk about the video game. Actually, I think a good segment on maybe next podcast or the one after would be kind of just giving us like a review of NHL 21. I think that's a good idea.
Oh,
like if we could spend a solid half of the show talking about NHL 21 and what we thought about it, just title the podcast NHL 21 review, I think that would be a good idea. Or maybe we just wait for the playoffs to be over, and then that'll give us something to do during the off season.
Let us know. Let us know,
because we're planning on doing the podcast once a week. At least I think that's what we're planning.
Yes.
Okay. I'm like, because I said this to Phil, and he hasn't really fully confirmed that once a week is fine.
Yeah, no, once a week is great. I'm fine with that. Like we can pick different days and stuff like that. It's all just gonna be schedule dependent. Like whenever I can get back to work or anything. But as of right now, I ain't doing anything. So yeah, once a week, anytime, any day works for me. But yeah, once a week is good because it's nice kind of to get into a habit and a rhythm. It'll be nice to look forward to something every week. So yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, so we're going to try to do once a week, and we're going to talk about the NHL. We're going to talk about the NHL video games, and we're going to talk about, I don't know, different life stuff, if life stuff happens, you know?
Because, we are humans. We do live a day-to-day life. It's not like
What?
we wake up. It's not like we wake up and we're just like, man, hockey. Although that's mostly been me the past, like, playoffs, like, time.
I'm not gonna
that's
lie,
mostly
like,
been me.
my thought process is usually a lot about hockey and what happened the night before, and I'm just analyzing it, but, like, I'm thinking about it while I do stuff, you know? Like, I'm making my smoothie in the morning, and I'm thinking about breakouts and shit, but I am making a smoothie to give myself energy. It's not just, a lot of people think the YouTuber thing is just, oh, that's him all the time. No, actually.
Could you imagine if that was all the time? Hey, what's up? Well, I'm at Tim Hortons here. What's going on here? Oh, should I get that ice cap? You know what? I'm gonna move my hand to get this ice cap right here. Here we go. Like, no, we're humans, dude.
You get to Tim Hortons, and it's like, hey, welcome to Tim Hortons. May I have your order? And you're like, what's up, girl? It's your boy G20. I'm gonna have a large ice cap, and give me some apple fritter donuts, and maybe even smash that like button, and just I'd love, you know what? That'd be funny. That'd be a funny clip. We should do that once.
I'm
not
down.
gonna be the one to do it, but I'm
I'll
down to
do
hold
it.
the camera.
Oh, I'll do it. I'm more than fine with doing that. That's right up my alley. I'm cool with that.
We went to Starbucks one time, and Phil goes, what did you say? Did you remember exactly word for word what you said?
Not off the top of my head. If you like refresh me, I might be able to think about it.
You said something along the lines of, I will have some of your most refreshing water or some bullshit like that.
I will have some of your most refreshing, delicious, tall, like, glass or whatever of water. It was something like that. Like, eloquent, like, just words that I never use where I'm just like, this might be my only time to say these, so.
Chick was a rocket. So that's probably what prompted that, but whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I walk up behind him, and I just go, and I will have your most liquid water possible. You could see that we spiced up the day, behind the counter. Like they were not expecting that. That was fun.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. Dude, I haven't actually even been to Starbucks since everything's gotten shut down.
Yeah, me neither, dude. The new area where I live in, the Starbucks is pretty freaking far.
Oh.
So that sucks, because I do love me some frappuccinos once in a while.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that the viewers are now getting to hear of like some experiences that we've had, kind of like off camera, off YouTube, stuff like that. But, sometimes you might just want to know more about the person behind the camera and like little things. So now we're going to do something that I've read a lot about and you guys have wanted it, and that is a nice little Q&A with G20.
Okay, we can
Yeah.
do that.
Have you found some lovely questions that you want to answer? If not, I can bring up your lovely community tab right now.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I found questions.
Okay.
I hearted the questions I was going to use in the Q&A,
Okay.
and I completely forgot to send you files of them. So
That's okay. I am
if you
already
can pull it
here,
up,
and yep, I'm already on it. I am.
as the producer, if you can pull it up, that'd be great.
Yeah, I
If
have them. I have
okay.
them. Oh, you
'Cause
want it pulled up on the actual screen?
No.
Okay, I was like, oh, I
work
didn't
on the
build
screen.
that. I'm like, Marshall, I didn't build that.
Phil's like, oh shit, building a scene live on the freaking podcast.
Ah! But I do have the questions up. Would you like me just to go in order from top down, or would you like me to just
No,
pick
go
anyone?
Go from the bottom.
Okay.
I hearted them.
Yep.
So go from the bottom. So whatever the first one comes
Yep.
in, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna say
Absolutely, yeah. I got that all brought up now. So here we are with the lovely Q&A section on the G20 show. I don't know if this is going to be like a weekly thing. Maybe if we get like some decent questions, we can make it a weekly thing, or we can
Yeah.
make it like a bi-weekly thing. Like, show's still in its infancy, man. We'll find like a whole like big old
Yeah,
format.
we're gonna
as long as-
mold this based on your feedback. Like this is not
Absolutely.
a set format. Like this is gonna be a thing that grows with you, and it's gonna grow into whatever the hell you want it to be. But if you
Mhm.
want another Q&A, then leave your comments down in the comments box below, and I'm gonna heart them, and we're gonna do this again, and maybe next time we'll try to have them on screen for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we'll plan all that out. And this first lovely question comes from Canes20. Why did you choose the Montreal Canadiens? I'm assuming that's for your recent Be a Pro series. So why did you choose the Montreal Canadiens?
Well, I was looking at the roster for the teams, because obviously I wanted to have a good base, and I wanted to go to a team where I wasn't going to sign there, look at the roster, and go like, ugh, why? So I read the feedback, and a lot of people say go to a rebuilding team, but at the same time, I didn't really want to go to a team that sucked. So I just looked through the roster, and I saw that, man, Montreal has a really decent set of young prospects, young medium elite rookies that are like low 80s overalls. I like, man, these guys are going to be a problem in a couple years. And when I checked the roster, Carey Price was on there. So originally the thing was going to be, can we win the cup this year, get a cup for Carey Price? But I think he ended up retiring, because then when I got to the Habs, he's not there. So he's either retired or he's on the Rockets, because I saw that he was 77 overall. So he might not be retired, but he might be playing for Laval. But that's why I wanted a rebuilding team, but I wanted a team that was good also, that I wasn't going to have to wait too long to be good again. And I just like the story, let's go there. Let's bring that 25th Stanley Cup home. And I wanted to do something unexpected, because if I would have gone to the Oilers, people would have been like, oh, of course, the Oilers fan goes to the Oilers, and I did that last year too. So I wanted to do something a little bit unpredictable, and I have a history of doing that, because I went to the Bruins last game as well. And the Bruins, obviously, the Leafs being my second favorite team, like direct rivals. And then this year I just went to the Habs. I was like, man, why not? It's, original 6 team, and they fit all the criteria. They have some good up and coming players. I saw they had like the 9th overall pick. I was like, yeah, let's go. It's going to be fun. And it looks like, as of right now, we're in the second round. We got killed in the last 2 games of our playoff series to this point, but it's 2-2 series, so we don't know. Maybe we'll make the conference finals, maybe we won't. But so far, I think it's a success. Like, even if the team goes out, I'll be happy with it. But that's why I went to the Habs, man. I just wanted something people were not going to predict, and judging from the comments, people did not expect that at all, which is cool, because that's what I wanted. But also have a good team and a fun story. Unfortunately, Carey Price not on the team anymore, but I tried. I tried.
What I've always liked about your Be a Pros specifically is you've always had that mindset of the story, keeping the story in mind, keeping a really just kind of I would say like flowing narrative between like teams that you've been to, or like players that you've been on with lines that you've had to face again. And that's always been really appealing to me. I think for me, that's always been because of video games, like following a coherent story and getting invested. That's the biggest thing why I like your Be a Pro, is because you get invested in your character and like where you've been and like what the teams are doing. So the fact that you do shake it up and keep that unpredictability is something that I feel like no content creators are really doing. Like someone do like, yeah, I'm on this team, like, oh, this is good, but you like having relationships and even doing those like little cutscene videos, especially like the one you did last year, which is one of my favorites, was when you were contemplating what team to go to and you ended up going to the Rangers. Is that was one of my favorite videos. But you're taking that extra mile to carve a narrative, and especially that was the big thing this year was the Be a Pro, getting overalls, getting updates. You can talk with your coach and stuff like that, and that's just what I think you've really excelled at, is like you said, hockey and talker. So this has kind of been a way for you to kind of encapsulate that and make it a huge, just entertaining narrative, which is why I've always enjoyed it, which is why I think many of the lovely viewers do as well. And shifting gears
Well,
from
no,
sports.
actually, I want to touch up on
Oh,
that
please,
before we shift
by
gears.
all
'Cause
means.
that's that's two reasons why that's a thing. First of all, thank you, because I do try to make all those things happen. But there's two reasons why that's a thing. The first one is Be a Pro has sucked for a couple of years, so we got to find a way to make it interesting, and that's how you make it interesting, is to actually get invested in your player and its relation with the world. That's how you get invested and you get more enjoyment out of it. Because if you're just trying to get as many points as possible, you're gonna get bored by like game 43, like maybe, you know. And the second that is my inspiration for starting YouTube was is a YouTuber called K Spade the Prospect, and he used to do NBA 2K videos, and that is one of the biggest things. Like the first series I watched him fully play was NBA 2K13, and that was one of his heaviest narrative stories that he had going on for the year. And that was just like, that's what really sparked it for me, because I'm a creative person, so I do need a creative outlet. And when I saw that, I was like, oh snap, it's not just getting 50 kills on Call of Duty and being like, oh, here's how I did it, look at how good I am. It's actually, you can actually carve out stories and make people genuinely care about your character and the characters that surround it, like the creative players that I add to my file every year. So that's a big thing, was to take the inspiration from K Spade and to make it my own. I tried to do pretty much exactly what K Spade did. Like my first couple videos were post commentary, which is you record the gameplay and then you commentate afterwards. I very quickly realized I was hot trash at that, and then I moved to live commentary, which I think is where I am better, definitely. So big shout out to K Spade for pretty much inciting that whole thing of legitimately going out there and making an effort to build a dynamic world, not just, oh, here's me shitting on the computer for 20 minutes.
That's fair. I like that. I like that you found something that you enjoyed and were able to kind of make it your own, which is, I won't get too crazy into it, but if you ever want to become a YouTuber, that's the exact thing you need to do. Find something you like, spin it into making your own. You just got to get the wheels going. You got to spin them tires. And speaking of spinning tires, this next one comes from AG7, which says, do you like F1?
Oh, that's good. That's a good transition.
Thank
dude.
you. Thank you.
Shit. That's why he's a producer, bro.
Mhm.
God damn. Okay. So I forgot the question. Oh, yeah. Do you like F1?
So mesmerized by that segue
Right?
there.
That was a great segue. And I was like, man, that's dope. But you like F1. Okay. Here's the thing. I like racing as a whole. I do enjoy the experience. We used to go to a track every Friday, and I really enjoyed that. I am not a big fan of watching F1.
Interesting.
And the reason for that is, if you watch qualifying and you watch how qualifying ends, that is 90% of the final results of the race. There's not a whole lot of passing. Stories of where a driver goes from 20th to 2nd are unbelievably rare. It almost never happens. After the first couple laps, it's basically in racing terms, we call it racing the track. It's you're not really racing the drivers around you. You're just racing. It's you and the track, and you're just kind of doing the best you can to have the quickest lap times possible. And if you do that, you'll stay where you are, and that's where you're going to finish the race. So I'm not a big fan of F1 for that reason, just because the grid, how it starts, is usually how it finishes, barring like big accidents and someone running out of or having a technical difficulty or something like that. Like there's a few people that'll pass here and there, but largely it's going to be pretty much the same as how qualifying ended. So I'm not a big fan of that, but I like auto racing. So I'll I'll dabble. I'll look at a race once in a while, but if for my money, I'm gonna watch IndyCar before I watch F1 racing. And IndyCar's fun because it has two types of racing, which is oval racing, which is underrated. That's kind of like baseball. The more you know about it, the more oval racing is actually fun to watch. And they also have road racing. So I like IndyCar more than I like F1. I don't dislike F1. I just don't really go out of my way to watch it for that reason.
That's fair. You know what? I've heard a lot of good things about that, like Netflix series about F1, which has kind of made me maybe want to like give it a shot, just to give it a test to see like maybe you know what, if I get invested in this, maybe like it'll appeal, more to me. But hey, man,
Are
this
you a
is
race guy?
not overly like not really. Like my only kind of racing experience has been just playing the Need for Speed games growing up, which is the furthest
Oh,
thing away from actual racing you can
yes.
get.
It's very far.
So I feel like if I watch this, I'm like, man, where's the cops? What?
You know, that's funny. I had an experience with one of our friends, Tyler, where I guess he was good at Need for Speed, and he thought that translated to a lot of the racing games. And so he saw that I had F1, and I think it was either it was one of the free games or he had got PlayStation Now when it was a free game for a little bit, or like he got it with his subscription, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'll play F1 with you because you can do a co-op season in F1." He's like, "Oh, I'll play F1 with you. Fuck yeah. Well, I'm actually really good at racing games." I'm like, "Oh, bet. Okay. Here's some actual competition." So, like, back then, I had a whole wheel and everything. Like, I had the wheel, the pedals. Like, I really legitimately enjoy racing when games are more geared towards simulation. I really do enjoy that. So I'm like, okay, I'll put the AI on actually a difficult setting, but not to the point where it's freaking near unbeatable. Like I'll put it on, difficult. Difficult. We can win, but we'll have to actually try to win, and we'll have to limit our mistakes, to in order to do that. So I do that. I turn most of the assists off, just keep a few there so it's not super sweaty. So because he's like, I'm really good at racing games. I'm like, okay, bet. And so I set it
We'll
up
see.
that way. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'll keep a few assists on. Like I won't be that guy, but I made the game difficult because he told me he was really good at them. So, so I do that, and then we start the practice session. The
Oh boy.
practice session on the first race we were going to do. I come out of the pits. I start whizzing around the track, and like 45 seconds later, he goes like, "Is this where we go?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, and he said, "Oh, there's this road here. I think is this the track or is this the?" He went on like one of the emergency cars, like this motherfucker got lost on the racetrack, and I'm like, how did you do that? He's like, I don't know, bro. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, all right, maybe he just doesn't know the track. I guess it happens. I guess he saw something that made him think that was part of the racetrack. So he gets lost on the track, and that was funny. But I figured, okay, maybe he can actually drive though. No. We go to
No.
qualifying. We do the entire qualifying session. Well, the entire. I set it to like a one-time 30-minute qualifying. So you do your laps for 30 minutes, and that's what qualifies you. The top times are who's gonna start ahead. I don't think he got a single lap in. He kept spinning out and spinning out because I had low assists, and going off of the track, so your lap time doesn't count because you went off the track, and that's considered either corner cutting or going too far to extend the track limits. So he didn't register a time, like a competitive time, And I'm like, oh boy, this guy was not good at racing games. And F1's one of those games where, you know, the at least the Codemasters version of it is, by the way, EA just acquired the F1 games not too long ago.
Okay.
So that's going to be interesting. But it's it was funny. It was really funny to see how that went.
So you could say that he was having a less than ideal experience, similar to what you would have when you have to watch your least favorite team. And this question comes from Hansa. Hansa Kred, who's a friend to both of us, actually. He is a fantastic human who asks, what is your least favorite team, and why is it the Flames?
It's not the Flames. It's actually a tie between the Flames and the Habs. But that's... it's just because it's rivalries, man.
You know what? I'm going to make you pick one right now. Is it the Flames or the Habs? You got to pick one. I am putting you on the spot right now. I'm challenging you. There you go. It's a tough call, man. Like, I don't envy you.
It is a tough call.
You got to weigh, like, everything right now. Mm-hmm. You weren't expecting this, so I'm watching you squirm, and it's really making me excited.
I was not expecting you to press me on this, but...
Oh, yeah. I am... It said least favorite, so I am making you pick one. Right meow, buddy.
Okay, it's by a slim margin.
Okay.
A very slim margin.
Okay, I'll take it.
But I gotta go based on how annoying their fans are. I gotta go with the Habs.
Okay.
And I've had I get along with some Habs fans, but I feel like I get along with most Flames fans because, you know, if you're level-headed and you're like, fuck Kachuk, and they're like, yeah, he's a dick, but he's our dick, and we like him. You know, if you say to a Habs fan, you're like, you know what, fuck Corey Perry, and yeah, but Corey Perry and Boyd's Payne used to win Hart trophies and shit. Oh Jesus, man!
Scored 50 goals.
Yeah, I'm just trying to freaking poke fun, dude.
2 gold medals.
Like, golly. Why is it got to be like, there are some good Habs fans, but I don't know. I just have more negative experiences with Habs fans than Flames fans who genuinely seem to have a good time chirping. So, yeah.
You know what? That's fair. And I feel like a lot of Twitter fan bases are just insufferable. As a Leafs fan, I'm not going to deny.
Twitter as a whole is insufferable.
You're absolutely correct. I ain't going to deny that, like, hockey team fan bases are insufferable. Canadian teams have a lot of that, like, passion, loyalty, dedication. And, you know, hopefully, one of those Canadian teams will lift the cup in the next 10 years. And so Richard Winter is asking, do you think a Canadian team will lift Lord Stanley's Cup in the next 10 years? And if so, which one?
Isn't Markham supposed to get was it there rumors that Markham was going to get an NHL team?
They're supposed to get a mega arena, and I was super excited because I lived so close to it at the time. I was like, bet I'm going to all the shows. I could just get hammered and walk home. Like, I was so excited.
In that case, the Markham Roadrunners or whatever the fuck they would call
it. Markham Roadrunners?
Don't know. No, but well, they wouldn't be running because it's in Ontario. But no, if we're going to go with the 7 current Canadian teams, I got to say, as much as the Oilers are my number one team, I think the Leafs are the most likely. However, if those two teams can't figure out their competitive window, I think the Habs are right after that. Like, they're next in line. Because if the Oilers and Leafs don't figure out their competitive window and time it correctly, the Habs have some serious freaking prospects, including Caulfield. That's like 2 or 3 years after the Leafs and Oilers window closes, the Habs are going to be right in there. You know, as much as Carey Price is getting older, like they got some guys coming up. You know, they got Primo, and they can always get new ones between now and then. So I think the Habs are going to be right next after Oilers and Leafs.
I would actually agree with that sentiment a lot. That seems like a really good kind of 1, 2, 3 kind of tier list. And while we're on the subject of numbers, Henry Norris is asking, how old are you? So how old are you?
I old enough to know better. No, I'm 24.
You're such a youngin'.
Right,
buddy. I'm right on the verge of 28, man. That's.
Oh no, you got exact potential now.
I do. That's what I joke about. I'm like, I don't have green. I don't have high, medium. I'm like, I am just exact.
You have the silver stars.
I am about to plummet. Okay, like you're about to find me in free agency, and I'm going to be asking for way too much money than I'm worth. So
You're
that
be
is
asking for like a 7-year contract.
yeah, 28. Like, I swear I'm good for it. I swear I'm absolutely good for it.
Right.
It's okay. You know, I'll just drown my sorrows in some of my favorite tunes. Which Marshall 9IQ asks, "What is your favorite music?" So I guess you can go songs, artists. You can kind of take this wherever you want.
Right. That's a rather open-ended question, but I like it because since music is, an artistic thing. So
Mhm.
that's kind of cool. How that's not super restrictive question. Um I do enjoy some hip hop, like some rap. I'll listen to Tech Nine and Futuristic and Eminem and guys like that. Token is a beast. I like those guys. Joyner Lucas, actually, I was just listening to the album that he dropped a little bit ago, like about a year ago. He just dropped a music video, and it was awesome. Okay, rip the BMW that he crashed in it, but I mean, whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, I do like that, and I like some metal music. A I'm not fan of specific groups except Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh,
I'll pick up some songs here and there that I'm like, oh hell yeah, this is fun. I like this.
so the
So
audio
I
kind of cut out. So that was Avenged Sevenfold, just in case it didn't get portrayed
oh,
right
did I have
through.
a digital fart on
A,
Zoom?
a little bit, but don't worry. It was. I didn't know if I lost you or not, so I'm like, I better be ready to hop in here.
Okay,
But yeah,
we're
so
doing this through Zoom, so it's possible that we have some digital uh interference here and there.
so you're not a big metal guy, except for mostly just like Avenged Sevenfold in terms of just being a fan of like bands. That's kind of what I
Yeah,
got. Okay.
I'm usually not a fan of specific bands, but I like songs. I like certain songs, and that's what I do. So yeah, hip hop and metal and heavy rock. That's pretty much the main part of what I listen to. So
So this next question comes from at
now you
Arcade
can answer that
Regiment.
too, Phil.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. I'm like, so this one comes from at Arcade Regiment, who asks, "What songs have you been listening to like this week?" Because you and I are big music guys, so I'm always like discovering stuff. So what song have you kind of like been bumping this week throughout? It could be like an older. It doesn't have to be new. Like it could just be one you just rediscovered, and you're like, you know what? I kind of dig this.
Yeah. Well, I have been really, really getting back into. It's not because I discovered it, but I'm getting back into our intro song, "Walk,"
Nice.
because
That's
that's
fair.
just that song is a freaking banger, man. And I think it's a good podcast intro song, not only because it carries a lot of momentum, but because I like the significance of a voice in that song is great, because that song is super easy. It's not a technical song at all. Like Pantera can play some so much more difficult songs than that, right?
Have you seen Dimebag? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Him, Vinnie
exactly.
Paul. I'm like, they absolutely can. They have the musical chops
Exactly.
for it.
No, but they go with a song that, except maybe the guitar solo, like you can learn how to play Walk within a month. Pretty much any instrument, right? Like 90% of it. I'm not saying you can play it perfectly, but you can play like 90% of Walk within a month on pretty much any instrument, except, like I said, the guitar solo. So it's a
And
simple song, but what really makes it is the voice,
mm,
right? Like I Rise Against is dope, but if Rise Against releases that song, it's not making it to the CD,
no,
because that they just don't have the singer that can sing that song. So I think it's cool for a podcast to have a song that has such a big thing to do with voice, because they took what was a really, really simple musical track and made it into, I'd say, like a classic metal song at this point.
which is just scary to hear, and I'm not even gonna lie, that's just horrifying to hear. But you're factually correct. Yes, it would, I guess, be a classic metal song.
Well, it's a here, since we don't want to act like we're too old. It's a metal essential song.
There we go.
How about
I am a lot more comfortable with metal essential as opposed to classic. You put classic in anything that kind of dates you, and your eyes just kind of go.
Yeah. Uh-huh. You're
S-
like, oh shit, I actually used VCRs. All right.
Ooh. Kids are like, what are those? But speaking of just essential, it was essential that we had someone just kind of give us a nice vocal on the intro. So we got to give a thanks and a shout out to Lauren.
Big time.
That is the voice that you hear in the intro, who provided
time.
the lovely vocals there. So thank you, Lauren. We appreciate you.
Yes, we really do appreciate it. Because I was thinking like, man, what do I want for an intro? I don't want one of us to do it because it's gonna be redundant.
And it's going to be me.
It probably would have been you, but I figured it would be redundant to have one of us do it because it's gonna be us introducing ourselves, which I think it doesn't really work as well.
Fair.
So I wanted someone else to do it. I like the female introduction sound. I just like how it sounds personally. Because it grabs your attention. It goes like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, I know someone who sounds really, really good. Like I could go out and get somebody else to do it. And I was like, I know someone that I actually like the sound of their voice. And I figured why not just ask Lauren? And she's super busy. I was like, yo, if I know you're busy, but if you could do it, then that would be great. And she's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, blessed.
Cool.
Blessed.
So that is the lovely, lovely intro that we have here. And introductions are always a kind of big thing, especially like when you're growing up and getting into like sports. And so Taven, I think it's Taven Moffat is asking, have you ever played hockey? If so, how old were you when you started?
Oh yeah, I played a lot of hockey. I played pretty much everything. I played like 2.5 years of goalie. That ended because I got hurt. I lost one of my the rest of my seasons. I basically played like 4 games, got hurt, couldn't play the rest of my season. That sucked big time. But I played right D a fair bit and
Nice.
left and right wing.
Nice.
Sometimes I would play center for things like penalty kill, and I'd be kind of Zach Hyman sometimes, where I just take a face off and then go back to the wing because I didn't skate as well as I probably should have for a center. So I would just take the face off because I was pretty good at it. And I go right back to my wing. And so, yeah, I never did full-time center, but I did those positions. And as far as how old I was, I mean, Jesus, like 5?
5. That's actually decently early for someone to play hockey. I think the average
5
age
or
is usually
6.
6 or 7, but you got an early start on that. So that's actually kind of cool.
I think I started skating around 5 and just playing around. And I started to actually play hockey, like play the game at like probably 6.
So like competitively, like and competitively you're 6. There's not much competitiveness, but like you are playing kind of organized and recreational at the age of 6.
Yeah.
Which is still, that's gonna give you a leg up because like I didn't start till I was 7, and I didn't even start skating till I was 7. So I was thrown in the pond, and I got the skates on. They put me in the ice, and they went woof, go, and I was like and I was like, oh, this is great. And then that's how I played my first year. Was I played defense for 2 years, and then I played wing for like a heck of a long time. And then there was like one practice, we were just doing like face-off drills. And they're like, hey, why don't you take a couple? And I went like 5 for 5, like just ping, ping, ping. And it's not like I went like 5 for 5 and it was like they were close. It's like I won 3 clean. And then I said, let me try winning it on my forehand. So I won it on my forehand. I'm like, let me tie it up and kick it. And I was like, oh, let me just try this stuff. I've done it in NHL. And they're like, you're going to play center from now on. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I did not like breaking out on the wing at all. Like I was good at it. But like transitionally, I
you have
like,
2 options.
Yeah, I'm like I can try and carry this, or I can try and bank it and get around. And I wasn't fleet of foot, but I was a big body, and I was a nuisance. I was a nuisance in front of the net. Like, you know what's that analogy? If you want bread, you go to the store. If you want goals, you go to the net.
Shut up.
So hey, I wanted goals, man. So I just went right to the front of the net, and I gave goalies a very, very difficult time every time I was there. And goalies sometimes get the short end of the stick.
Sure
Because
do.
when you win, it's like, it's by goals, unless it's like a shutout. But if a goal goes in, everyone's quick to blame the goalie, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's just quick. So goalies are under a lot of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of like maybe handling that potential criticism, Frederick Van Buren is asking, have you
That's
ever
a dope
considered
name.
that's a
I hope that's his real name. That's awesome.
Frederick, if you're listening, please let us know if that's your real name, because Frederick Van Buren might be my next Be a Pro name because that's so awesome. Have you ever considered doing like perhaps a year by year shorter series of a goalie Be a Pro? That sounds like how I'd write that comment. Ever like considered doing like perhaps a year by year shorter series of a goalie Be a Pro?
Uh, I considered it actually. If you follow me on Twitter at G20YT and also in the link in the description, see, I actually plugged my stuff today.
Nice.
But if you follow me, you'll see the video of me attempting to play it, being in position for the first shot I faced 2 minutes in, and the shot getting right through my goalie. I quit the game right then and there, and I never fucking played goalie again because goalie sucks this year. It is not fun to play at all. That is definitely going to be something I dive into once we do the NHL 21 review thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did not enjoy my experience playing goalie at all. Um, if if I'm whenever I feel like playing goalie, I can't do it anymore because my PS3 decided it's not reading discs anymore for some reason. But whenever I would feel like playing goalie, I would play NHL 09, 10, or 11.
Just to kind of
That's
get
it.
that like fill of like decent, competent goaltending like
Yep.
controls. It was kind of
Well,
like
well,
comfort gaming, I guess.
yeah, comfort gaming. No, but the thing the thing with 09 and 10 is you don't really have good controls.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically you just move your goalie with the left stick, and you don't even have a control to hold the post. It's automatic. Like when the puck is in a certain area and you're next to the post, he'll literally cover it automatically. So you're really limited as far as controls go. I think you can stack the pads, and that's about it. That's the extent of your really in-depth control. Oh yeah, you can poke check too. That's about it. But what I like about 09 is if you're actually in good position to stop the shot, you're gonna stop the fucking shot unless it's tipped or something. So that's just fun as a goalie to know that if the tools I have are just to be in position, if I'm in position, I should stop the bloody thing. So I like just playing that. And also 09 is just really, really, really fast paced. If you don't believe me, go watch some gameplay on YouTube. Not for me because I don't have 09 gameplay up, but go watch some goalie gameplay 09. It is quick and it feels like an NHL game. It is fast. You got to keep up, but your goalie can keep up. It's actually fast enough to keep up with the freaking play, unlike the goalies we have in this game. So it's always fun to just get in there and stop a couple shots. And NHL 09, you get to play with the old Thrashers jerseys, which are dope. So I usually do a goalie on the Thrashers, which is a shame because it's either Kovalchuk scores or no one scores, but it is what it is.
I'm just glad that you have fun like playing something that you love and playing something that you enjoy. And speaking of enjoyment, I had an enjoyment of being able to participate in the first episode here, because that is going to about wrap it up for us here. That is a good bunch of questions. If you want to ask us any questions at all, leave them down in the comments. Right down in the comments, man,
Do you
because we'll
have a
pick the best
runtime?
ones. I have 1 hour 17 minutes.
Hey, that's good. We're
Yeah.
aiming to do an hour to 90 minutes every episode. So an hour, 17 minutes, that's like right about hopefully what's going to be about the average. So I like that.
That's where I was like, I saw it. I'm like, that's the sweet spot. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this first debut
Yeah.
episode. It's still like we're saying, it's a work in progress. We're all about you guys. We want to know like what you guys want us to talk about, what you guys enjoyed about this. Leave us any feedback. Leave us any feedback at all. Questions, comments, concerns down in the comments below. We will go through them. We like your opinions, man. It's not fun if it's just us talking to each other all day long. It's great when we involve the community.
I do like talking with you, but you're right. It's we got to involve the people down low because I mean, the point of doing a podcast is to actually, cast it.
Exactly.
So-
It's to actually talk and get feedback. I mean, you and I could just talk on the phone for 3 hours and it would be
exactly. But no, this is dope. So this basically, if there's segments that you don't like, segments that you really like, let us know in the comment section, and we're gonna mold the show after what you want. And eventually, we're gonna become so comfortable with the format that it's gonna be just picture perfect, and we're gonna
Mhm.
be really in the groove. And at that point, like I said, we're gonna do some live episodes. So go ahead and follow Phil on
Thanks,
Twitch
man.
and everywhere.
Yeah, make sure you follow us. Follow us at YouTube, at G20YT, at Arcade Regiment. If you guys are already here, you already know that you're subscribed to G20, but if you're not, what are you doing, man? Make sure you're clicking that subscribe button.
13K, baby.
13. Congrats, by the way, man. I'm going to take a second.
Thanks.
Congrats, dude. Absolutely well-deserved on the road
You know what
to
I'm just
15 and
realizing
20.
right now?
What?
We spent like a fair amount of time creating an intro screen.
Mhm.
We do not have an extra screen.
Nope. We
don't.
do not.
So I'm just
That's-
going to shimmy out of the shot, and that's going to be the podcast.
I like that. Thank you guys so much. We look forward to seeing you. Hopefully same time, next place. And go ahead and stay classy.